Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. It's 6:24 a.m. and it's time to shine a spotlight on the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
Inside your spotlight this morning, we have the Single Fathers Association and the president, Rhondall Feeles, joins us via Zoom. Good morning to you, Rhondall.
Morning, Ruckus. Always a pleasure to be here.
How are you doing this morning?
I good, you know. I good. I don't complain too much at all.
Really? All right. I love that for you. So I understand you are requesting mandatory DNA testing because 440 tests were done over 5 years and 1/3 of them came back negative. So you think that means we should have mandatory DNA testing, yes?
I mean, long before that, I thought so. And I mean, not only based on that testing also, but also grounded on the fact that it was supported by the Joint Select Committee in a hearing in 2018. When we were called before the Joint Select Committee in the Parliament, we presented cases and we presented evidence of persons who didn't even comprise in that 440. And based on that evidence that we presented on that date, if you go back now, you will see the Joint Select Committee's recommendation was that to have confirmation of paternity before issuance of any child maintenance order. So this is something that has been even, I would say, approved by members of Parliament. And they have made their recommendation, yet the Attorney General's office, since the last dispensation, has not done anything about it. It's almost 10 years now. So what we did is actually then go and seek quantitative analysis. That is why we seek that from the lab, to substantiate what we have been saying for almost 13 years and to substantiate what the Joint Select Committee recommended almost 10 years ago as well.
All right. So, Rhondall, in some of the ones that you said you did the testing on, the 440, right? Some of them were actually legal proceedings, as in they were mandated by the court? Is that what it was? Yes,
mandated by the court. We separated it into two subsections.
Right.
The legal parameter that was mandated by the court when the person was sent to the lab by the court.
Right.
And the other was just peace of mind, persons who went in privately.
All right. So then, in that case, right, isn't it already a standard set where if there is doubt, if you have a query or a challenge that you can, when you're brought before the court, say to the court, I don't think this is my child, I would like to get a test done. Is that not already in place?
Of course it is, but you need to understand how that actually plays out. That goes out with a lot of fear behind it. Most of these men complain that because they're put in that situation, they're sometimes penalized if the results come back positive, and it now diminishes their chances to have custody awarded to them or diminishes their chances of having suitable access to the children. They've even been told by some magistrates at some points in time, what you want custody for? And you queried the child was even yours in the first place? So these are some of the things that happens culturally that impacts persons who want to ask for a test from asking from a test because they are fearful of the situation. Some men have also complained to us that they sometimes want to ask their partner. Some of them have asked their partners, and their partner say, if you only go and do that test and it come back that is not your child, we done. The relationship is over. And I think that is an unfortunate situation and an unfortunate position. And I think it calls for some type of public education drive, because this is the only way that paternity can be verified. Whereas with the mother, confirmation of maternity is straightforward. She bears the child, she births the child. But when it comes to a man, whether married, whether unmarried, because we have seen situations with married men where we've tested them and none of their children were theirs. However, because of either being in a relationship or because of either being before a judge or a magistrate, some men are intimidated to request this because it gives the automatic appearance that they are in denial, or the automatic appearance that they do not want to be involved in the child's life. And that isn't always the case. Some people just really want to know, and that is your right.
So, all right, I hear you. I completely hear where you're coming from, and it makes sense. I'm wondering, though, if it is that, do you think mandatory testing would mean that that judgment is no longer going to be cast from a cultural perspective, from a social perspective, or do you think it would deter some women from even taking men to court in the first place?
No. I think that mandatory position, I'm not telling a woman not to take a man to court at all. I am just saying that mandatory position relieves the man from the opportunity of having to say, give me the test, and then face the repercussion of a society that has been miscultured. That is what I am saying. So if it is mandatory, it is not he coming before a magistrate to request it, but it is automatically requested. And then you have to understand that particularly with the court has to take accountability for who they intend to imprison if they breach their maintenance order. They are to have a duty of care for the man who they are going to put in prison and telling him he is going to be put in prison if he does not make his maintenance payments. And I can only tell you it is totally unfair. It is irresponsible of a judiciary to take a man who you are not certain of being the paternal parent of a child and imprison him. You, as a judiciary, should be even more concerned than Rhondall Feeles is concerned to make sure there is fairness and justice, that the man you're going to send to prison, if he does not comply with the law, is actually the biological parent of the child. Because I am telling you, if any of those men decided or had the financial wit to take the state before the court, I'm pretty sure we might have been facing some serious lawsuits here now in Trinidad and Tobago.
And the lawsuits would be against the court if it is that you came to the court.
We are against the state.
But if you came to the hearing, you didn't request the testing, and you accepted what the judge laid out on the table in terms of maintenance, and then you refused to, or then you didn't get a chance to pay it, you missed the opportunity to pay it. How is that on the state?
Because at the end of the day, long and short of the story, I believe a judiciary is supposed to provide justice. We understand, yes, there are legal presumptive ways to confirm paternity, but I think it is the court's duty to keep people safe as well. It is the court's duty to ensure fairness as well. So where I get your very good point, that a man should also say, hey, here what's going on. Let me get a paternity test. In other instances, when women are afraid to report for raping and all these things, we put things in the system to protect them, to make them feel more comfortable to report domestic violence, to report rapes and these kind of things. So I believe at this point in time that you should have the same thing in the system to protect men. I am not saying you may win the case, but I am pretty sure that if you bring a matter before the court, it will be heard, and you very well might win. There's only one way to know, Ruckus. You test it before the court.
Okay,
I hear you. With your human rights.
So is it that you feel that the way we set up society now, we don't have anything close to the amount of rights we have for women, for men?
Oh, but I mean, I have shown it a number of times. We've seen it in our statistics when it comes to in areas of homelessness, when it comes to preventative measures, particularly in this month of men's mental health, for the prevention of self-harm and these areas. We have a number of areas where men are falling back into society, and we don't have any real social strategic plan or real framework, even in our mental, and even not even mental, and physical, the male physical health system that we have. We don't have anything that prompts or probes men to get before our medical system, our health system, other than pain. So, I mean, these are things that I have highlighted for almost 2 decades. So we look at paternity leave as well. Come on, yeah. Ruckus, come on. You understand? So this is nothing new. I could talk for days again because I've been speaking for years, and it's easy for me to pull rabbits out of hats all over the place when it comes to that topic.
So then, Rhondall, what's the next step? What's the step that we need next in order to start fixing this challenge that we see?
We need action. Ruckus, ask yourself in the last 10 how much ever years you've interviewed me, how many times you've asked me that question. And it's because the reason you keep asking it is because we haven't seen any change. And the only way we will see change is if men and women who are in the right and appropriate place to enforce these changes or to implement these changes or to encourage these changes, only when they decide to act, these changes will come to fruition. Yesterday, I was a part of the debate in Tobago where that was held in commemoration of International Men's Day. And young boys from the age of 15, not Rhondall Feeles research alone, did the research for themselves and showed the statistic of the number of men that are in psychiatric institutions, over 66%, the number of men that are homeless in our capital, which is 94%, the number of men that are committing suicide, which is over 84%, they themselves highlighted it. So the stats are there, yet the action is missing. And we need to ask ourselves why. I just conducted a test on paternity testing where it shows that 1 in every 3 men tested for paternity are not the biological parents of their children. And instead of people being concerned, they try to punch holes and query and make all kind of issues with it when we have very similar statistic for domestic violence. 1 in every 3 men or 1 in every 3 women, are victims of domestic violence. You know, when they ask, if you ask yourself, where's the basis of this quantitative analysis that ratio came from? It's TTPS reporting. And we know TTPS reporting, you're going to get some false reports of domestic violence as well. Nobody has punched holes in those things. People have become concerned. It's created the right narrative. It's created the publication of ads to deter domestic violence. It's created the development of societies and groups and sponsorship from corporate to deter domestic violence against women. So why, when these stats that didn't come from a Single Fathers Association going into the streets, it came from a certified lab. So it is scientifically based. And though it is one lab, one can gladly imagine that 1, not everybody came from the same community. 2, they're not all of the same age bracket. 3, they're not all of the socioeconomic standing. 4, they're not all of the same ethnicity. So, what else? They're not all going to be married. They're not all going to be single. So at the end of the day, you had a diverse sample size of 440. Some tests are conducted with 50 and 100, some research. And yet, instead of being brutally concerned and say, if 440 men would test of all these diversities and 143 came back, whether what we want to say about suspicion, whether what we want to say about anything else, that is a great concern. You know why, Ruckus? Because that was 143 men whose life was shattered. 143 children whose life was shattered. 143 grandmothers who's not the granny anymore. 143 aunts and uncles who are not the aunts and uncles anymore. And their children are not the cousins anymore. That is where the concern should really lie. And if that is the case, then we'll understand the validity and importance of correcting the bad behavior that we see some of our women folk conduct in our society. And therein lies the problem in our Ruckus. Therein lies the problem that there's this man coming to tell women to be accountable, when for my entire life from a boy, I have been told to be accountable, to be a good father, to be a good man in society, to not abuse women, a number of things. And that is good, and we endorse that. So we expect at this point in time that no matter your gender, you should never be beyond rebuke, you should never be beyond correction, and you should always want to take critique as a member of the society so that we have a healthier society of men, women, and children to live amongst.
Most definitely. Rhondall, that's all the time we have for this morning, but I thank you very much for joining us and for sharing. And of course, you always feel your passion coming through the screen, so we definitely give thanks and praises for you joining us this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Appreciate it, my brother. Anytime.
Man, take care. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Rhondall Feeles, the president of the Single Fathers Association, just sharing with us his call for mandatory DNA testing and the reasons why. Let's take a quick break and come back with more on the Now. Stay tuned.